Okay, sweet. So we'll just kick it off from there then. Um, when we're going through our information today, some of this is going to be relevant to you, some of it is going to be for the ISAP students, and we're going to likely just end up sending this recording out to them. So as we go forward, I think the biggest things to be keeping in mind is that there's different pathways for every single student, and we'll continue to work together alongside the Writing Symbols Lodge as we support some of those transitions. So with that said, we'll kind of just kick it off. We already have access to these online materials, but it's always good for everyone who is joining virtually and in person today to be able to access those. So this gives you the overall walkthrough to some of the Indigenous materials and the overall pathway programs. So going from ISAP to a possible faculty bridging program into undergrad as well. As a brief, you guys have already made it here in person, so that's great. But for any of you who will be joining our campus a little bit later, it gives us some context to how big our campus is. So we're roughly about an hour walk when we're looking at a general tour. And we are currently located in the McEwen Student Center. So perfect, right in the center of campus. We have access to our immediate facilities here. So dental office, eye doctor, and then there's a nice food court, wellness services, and of course our Writing Symbols Lodge located here as well. If you were ever looking to live on campus and on residence, we do have our residence buildings tucked behind here. And for our ISAP students who are watching this back virtually, it's good to be keeping in mind that if you do have questions about residence, to be connecting with the Writing Symbols Lodge team and myself as early as possible so that we can look to setting you up if there's not an application in progress already. As we kind of start transitioning this conversation into the faculty programs and ISAP and what is best for you, it's good to be keeping in mind, we're going to give some general information to all of these faculties that we see up on the screen here today. We're not going to be going into too much detail on what each program looks like in each major, just so that we're conscious of time, but it's always best, again, to be connecting with the Indigenous recruitment team and the Writing Symbols Lodge if you find that ISAP is the best place for you to begin, or some of those faculty bridging programs. As we kind of walk through the pathways to university, we're essentially going to walk through in an example. So at the moment, we're kind of living in realm 3. So we're living in the bridging programs as that's the application that's currently open. So for you, that would be applying under the faculty bridging program and through that statement of intent. For our ISAP students, they apply the same way as our faculty bridging program students. So it's technically through that open studies application. Your intention for ISAP or for the faculty bridging program needs to come through that supplementary statement, and we're more than happy to connect with you afterwards about what that looks like individually in order to make sure that your application is set up for success. But the nice thing about our pathways to university is that we can really jump from pathway number 3 to ISAP back to pathway number 1 or 2, depending on what you need after your journey. So if we find that we're starting in a bridging program or we're starting with the ISAP program, as we continue to work together and through the Writing Symbols Lodge, we're going to be able to facilitate whether or not we think, depending on what you take in year 1, if you can get directly admitted through a grade point average consideration, or if we do need to continue to work together on that supplementary process. Ideally, we want our ISAP and our faculty bridging, our ISAP students to be applying early as they don't have direct entrance like our ISAP students, like our faculty bridging students. And so working together throughout the ISAP year, there's going to be cohort sessions for our students, application workshops, and we work really closely on exploratory advising for maybe some of our students who don't have all of those pieces hammered out yet. Perfect. I keep losing my mouse. The Indigenous pathway programs, as I mentioned, these are completely individualized to every single student. And so your pathway program may look different from someone who's even in the same faculty as you. And it's good to be keeping in mind that depending on the supports you need, there is always an advisor who's able to help you within that faculty. But a lot of that does live in the realm of the Writing Symbols Lodge as well. So if you find that you are needing some of that cultural connection or that personal support, the Writing Symbols Lodge is kind of your landing space, your safe space on campus to be able to get what you need. At the moment, our faculty bridging programs are through science, business, architecture, engineering, arts, and commis. So there's 6 of them as part of the faculty entrance. Those that are currently open are still all faculty bridging programs, but as we get closer to that July 31st date, we want to make sure your application is successful. If not for faculty bridging, can we consider you for the ISAP program? So we're always going to be doing our best to make sure that your evaluation is where it needs to be. As part of all of these programs, we do require Indigenous citizenship or membership. So for me, that looks like my Métis status card. For you, that may look like First Nation status, non-status documentation, or Inuit documentation as a beneficiary card. We can always talk about what that means. And if you have questions about documentation, don't hesitate to reach out to the Indigenous recruitment team. We can make sure to set you up for what it is that you do need in terms of success. As we kind of talk about the Writing Symbols Lodge, this is where we're going to transition to Deirdre. She is currently supporting programs through the Writing Symbols Lodge, and some of our ISAP students, as they do start getting connected. I only know so much of the Writing Symbols Lodge. I am very happy to be able to supporting Indigenous graduation 2 years in a row now. But that academic advising piece and that cultural piece, I'm sure that she can talk a little bit more to as well.
Yeah, thank you. So the Writing Symbols Lodge is really the main Indigenous cultural center on campus. So there are a lot of cultural supports that happen within the lodge, and it is ultimately a space for Indigenous students to meet and to hang out. And I think first and foremost, it's that. So there you can see in the top left corner there a picture of the facilities that we have. So the Red Lodge hosts events and there are study spaces, and students just come in to study and hang out. We do provide orientation sessions at the beginning of the fall semester as part of the broader university orientation. And then at the bottom corner, left corner there, that academic, cultural, and personal advising. We do bring in a lot of advisors from across the campus so that they're here in-house for students to access. And that advising can be, academic pieces around, once students are in a degree program, talking to their faculty advisors about program requirements and how to move forward within their degree. Things like registration. For ISAP students, that some of that support includes exploratory advising, which we'll talk a little bit more about, which is the registration pieces, and then thinking about what do we want to do. The cultural and personal advising, we have a wellness support advisor who comes in as well. We also provide support through student accessibility services. So there's all kinds of campus supports that come through the lodge here, so that they're housed in-house. Yeah, and then, sorry, if we could just go back for a quick sec. I just want to mention as well on the right-hand side, the
Oh my goodness.
that's okay. Yeah, so there are also a couple of cultural programs that the lodge provides as well. One of them is an Indigenous youth leadership program where current students can be hired as student staff to do that role, and they go and work with youth and community in junior high and high schools to provide leadership, a specific set of leadership training. So that's always something to think about as a student. Yeah, okay, sorry.
No,
Go
all
ahead.
good.
Okay, so the Indigenous Student Access Program, so commonly known by its acronym ISAP. So you'll hear ISAP a lot through this presentation. There's a lot of text on this slide. Really the crux of it is that the ISAP program is a 1-year program that offers an opportunity as an alternate route for admission. So it gives students the opportunity to take university level courses to build a GPA to become admissible to a degree program. And students, all Indigenous students who are eligible, including First Nations status and non-status, Métis and Inuit students are welcome to participate in the program. And students can apply to ISAP directly from high school with high school upgrading courses or with previous post-secondary experience. So like, thanks for sharing your background. All of that kind of comes into consideration when we're looking at ISAP admission, and we'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. And as Alicia mentioned, ISAP is it's a type of open studies. So open studies really means that students are admitted to the university, but not to a faculty. So ISAP kind of gives that 1-year cohort bridge to get that academic success to move into a faculty. Yeah. Okay. So in terms of admission requirements into the ISAP program, students must present one of the following bullet points here. So either having 65% or more in English 30-1 or an equivalent grade 12 academic English course, a minimum 2.0 GPA in a transferable post-secondary English course, or a minimum 2.0 GPA calculated over the last 12 units, which is 4 courses of post-secondary coursework. Now this list is an order of operations. So it's not, if I have all 3 of these things, it's not one that it's, so the last bullet point of having post-secondary experience really supersedes the other 2. Does that make sense? Okay. So in your case, because you do have some post-secondary, that's really what we'd be looking at. But there is an opportunity for us to, with that supplemental, to have some other consideration. Yeah. And then just to note that students who do have more than 12 units or 4 courses of post-secondary coursework completed are considered on the most recent or the last 12 units or 4 courses that they had taken. So potentially if I've had 10 courses and some of them I maybe didn't do very well in, but the last 4 I did, then that would really be making up my GPA. So that gives us a little bit of balance there. Some other requirements for admission, so Indigenous identity documentation, and this is definitely something that Alicia and the ISAP team in Writing Symbols can support with. Providing official transcripts, so whether that is only high school, or if for those who have attended post-secondary, high school and post-secondary, and then also meeting with the ISAP coordinator. So that would be a next step after submitting the application. And then in some cases where a student may not meet one of those 3 bullet points above in the admission, submitting a supplementary application to provide more of that context. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Again, lots of stuff on this slide. So information about the supplementary application. It is a personal statement submitted by students, and it's a way for the university to consider personal circumstances as part of the admission review. So so there's an opportunity for more than simply the academics or the grades to be considered. The format is really up to the student. It can be in an essay format, it could be a recorded oral format or a video. And some of the kind of key things to consider in a supplementary application, things that the admission committee that reviews would be looking for would be to know things like, why are you interested in the ISAP program? What are you hoping to achieve in participating in ISAP? Which degree programs are you hoping to pursue in the future? What are your educational goals? What support systems do you have in place to support you with your education? previous educational, personal, or work experience that could support your post-secondary experience, and explaining the circumstance around any potential missing admission requirements. So for example, yeah, having a rough academic year, if there are circumstances that kind of led to that.
Yeah, and just on that note too, a lot of that is mirrored for our faculty bridging programs as well. So, in your statements, we, very similar to the structure of the ISAP supplementary, you would outline, this is the faculty I'm looking to go into in the major program I'm hoping to be considered through that. And then again, giving some insight to those educational goals, just so that the faculty committee, very similar to the ISAP, has a good walkthrough on what it is that you need in terms of supports and being able to find that path for you. So alongside the ISAP admission requirements, there are separate faculty bridging program requirements, which we've reviewed together. And if there are any questions after watching this recording, do continue to reach out to the Indigenous recruitment team. But for most of you that I've already connected with, those don't seem to be an issue. But for anyone finding this material later, that's something that we want to keep in mind too.
Okay, great. So in thinking about ISAP specifically, some of the highlights of the program, as mentioned earlier, is the key piece is that bridging, is that it gives students the opportunity to take university level courses, rebuild, potentially repair a GPA with that intent of future admission into a degree program. And there is a lot of embedded support within it. It does work as a cohort. And so the third bullet point there, really building that community. And so I think the community and the support kind of go hand in hand. And as I mentioned, there's a lot of ways in which we provide academic and personal support for really focused on the well-being of students as they work through. There's also a component of workshops that are put on by the ISAP coordinator for the students, and that happens throughout each semester. The events do change throughout the semester, but typically they include study sessions, talking circles with an elder who works directly with us here in writing symbols, and some type of cultural event. So as an example, on the picture there, we did some drum making last year. So students had the opportunity to make their own drum and have some teachings in regard to that. We have also done some traditional dance, so ribbon dancing and I've forgotten the other one, and Inuit hand games. There's all kinds of like really kind of fun activities, but also connecting to that cultural piece. Yeah. Okay. So in ISAP, because it is a component of or a type of open studies, students, so at the bottom left there, you can see the maximum number, it's very small. The maximum number of courses students can take per semester while they're in ISAP or as this open studies is 4 courses, so 12 units. There are some particular mandatory courses within the ISAP program. So all students in the cohort would take these and take them together. So that adds to that cohort nature of the program. So in the fall semester, one of the required courses is Indigenous Studies 201, which really is an introduction to Indigenous studies and learning a bit more about the lens of Indigenous peoples within Canada. University 205, Effective Learning Strategies, is not a required course of the ISAP program, but it is a really highly recommended course. And it is taught by the elder that we do have connected to the program and connected to Writing Symbols Lodge. And that course really does help students set up their academic success which is why we recommend in the fall semester. So starting in on those learning strategies really early. And then in addition to that, students could take up to 2 open options, 1 or 2. The recommendation is that students maybe take 3 courses in the fall semester just to kind of test out university, but that is kind of also dependent on the student's past experience and how much previous exposure to university they have had and how comfortable they feel with taking on more. So
yeah, on the UNF 205 one as well, that's typically one that we also see our bridging students also enroll in, just because we do want to be able to set up that strategy for success. And very similar to the monitoring of ISAP in terms of course load, we would work together along with your faculty advisor to decide, is it best for you to get 3 courses? Is it best for you to get 4? What's appropriate for your bridging program, since every single one looks different depending on the student too.
Yeah, and then the winter semester, again, so thinking about that framework of 3 or 4 courses, there are 2 required courses during the winter, so English 251, which is a fairly standard introductory English course at a university level, and covers a lot of reading around Indigenous culture. And the second course is Indigenous Studies 397, so it's topics in Canadian Indigenous Studies, and topics do change from year to year. So some of the previous topics have been Indigenous film and adaptation, history in contested spaces, contemporary Indigenous nonfiction, and early Indigenous settler writing. So it really does kind of depend on the instructor in the year as to what the topic would be. That course in particular, I would say, anecdotally, students do tend to really enjoy that course a lot out of the kind of 3 or 4 that are required within the program. And then students would also have the option to take 1 or 2 additional courses of their choice. And it's probably also worth pointing out, just for our folks maybe watching or listening to the recording afterwards, that students could also be doing high school upgrading courses at the same time, but those are not considered university level courses, so they wouldn't be part of the 4 courses per semester in open studies or ISAP. Yeah. Okay. One of the nice things that we have gotten connected with is the Student Success Center offers a peer assisted study session program. So acronyms are very big on campus, very popular. So peer assisted study sessions, we typically use the acronym PASS. So these PASS sessions are free for students. They're set up automatically within the course. They happen outside of the course time, and a previous student who has taken the course and done well in the course leads the PASS sessions. So it's just a peer study session, but all 3 of the ISAP courses do have a PASS session attached to them. So again, another way to build that community and that academic success. Yeah. Okay. Ooh, this one is tricky to read. So the ISAP orientation. So each year at the beginning of the fall semester, as a broader campus, there is an orientation to bring in new students and get them set up on campus. Prior to the days of main orientation, ISAP for that cohort does run a 2-day orientation session. And on the second day, the pathways students, so students in degree pathways are invited to join as well. And the orientation includes all kinds of really great things, connecting with elders and elder teachings, campus tour, having a bit more of an overview of ISAP, some expectations, focus a bit more on that registration piece, meeting the professors of those set courses, talking a lot more about campus supports. And we typically do bring in some former students to talk about their experience in ISAP as well. Lots of tech talk, so getting students set up on their laptops, figuring out the Wi-Fi and their email and all of those important things. And then thinking about goal setting. So what is it that we're hoping to get out of this program, and what intentions do we have for ourselves for the upcoming year? And of course, lots of fun things as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have spoken a little bit about some of these already, but we'll just go through them briefly. So a lot of the support services that are very well connected within the ISAP program, and also for those degree pathways students, are listed on the slide here. So starting on the top left, exploratory advising is a specialized type of academic advising within the Student Success Center, and really is about supporting students in figuring out what their educational goals are. So therefore, which degree am I going to pursue, and how do I select courses to work toward that? For students who already have goals and a set program in mind, exploratory advising for ISAP does support registration as well. Next in the middle on the top, student accessibility services. Really, this is all of academic supports and accommodations. So for students who may need accommodations around exam writing, test taking, where like writing in a separate space, having additional time, things like note taking within a class, having a reader, all of those kinds of extra supports student accessibility services provides. And then at the right on the top there, the Indigenous recruitment team, which Alicia has spoken quite a bit about, but really supporting all incoming Indigenous students with a degree program admission advising. Yeah. Anything you'd like to add there?
No,
Yeah.
no, I think everyone who is in this Zoom or watching it back or with us today knows exactly who we are and what we do and how we try to help our students, but yeah.
That's great. Okay, so going to the bottom row there on the left, the Student Success Center is kind of a broader office that supports students with academic success. So they that's where exploratory advising is housed. That's where those past sessions really come from. Lots of other study strategy and academic support pieces come out of that office as well. So yeah, good one to be connected with. In the middle on the bottom there, student wellness services. So Alicia did kind of mention that as well. So all of the medical services, and then all of the mental health and well-being services as well. And Writing Symbols does have an Indigenous counselor and a student wellness advisor who come into the lodge as well. And then the last one on the right there, career advising. So the Center for Career and Personal Development. Everything has very long titles on campus. So career advising happens through the Center for Career and Personal Development, and they really focus on helping students figure out that next piece after university, but also can be really helpful in helping students find summer employment. And work on resumes and interviewing and all of those great career skills. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's me. So this is kind of where we have that conversation about what does it look like in terms of ISAP enrollment or faculty bridging. I think the biggest thing here that some of our students, we want them to be keeping in mind is that Depending on an ISAP program, there may be a little bit more questions about whether or not you're able to receive band funding or what opportunities there are for external funding outside of that, so other organizations, scholarships. So if we want to have those conversations, we should probably get on those now. And then for our faculty interested bridging students, the numbers aren't too far off from what we see with ISAP, as they kind of mirror our undergraduate tuition, and they would mirror that in your faculty. And so because most of the courses that we get you in are at that university level, we do have the general tuition and fees outlined. I would like to say that it's not as high as we see outlined on the screen here at 11 in terms of the baseline tuition. This comes down to the courses you're enrolled in, again, the faculty that you have ended up choosing. I would say that most of our ISAP and bridging students are anywhere from the 8 to maybe 9,000 for the term, again, depending on if you're at 3 courses for the year or 4 courses for the year. And then as we walk through general fees, books and supplies, because you are an undergraduate student, either in the ISAP program, taking some of those courses, or through your faculty bridging program, there are certain maintenance fees or health and dental plans. And so there's the opportunity to opt out of certain things. But most of that goes towards your overall access to these services and spaces on campus. But again, this is a complete estimation. This isn't a complete concrete number, but there are some of those general ones that are at those UCalgary that we can't get rid of. But if you were buying a brand new textbook or a brand new laptop, we're taking into account some of these numbers as well. So all an estimation, and it's always best to be connecting. For the residence and meal plan expenses, this looks a lot different depending on where our students are at. So if they're ISAP students living on campus and they're in your first year, again, depending on the age range, a meal plan may be required, it may not be required. What it looks like in order to enroll, how that application process looks like. I think most of us have already connected already on residents and what that looks like in terms of need. So good to be keeping in mind. That's always something that we can have conversations with and hopefully get the ball rolling. But the nice thing about this page is that it gives us the overall under student cost estimator tool. So as you transition from outside of the faculty bridging program into your direct faculty, right, is it arts, is it science, is it social work? All of those have a different tuition scale, and so we can get the overall year cost, which is great in terms of long-term funding and planning as we continue to move forward.
Yeah, and sorry, just one thing that I'll mention in regard to the ISAP courses and general fees. We do generally provide textbooks for students associated with those classes. So in terms of book fees, students are mainly looking at the textbooks connected to their option courses.
As we kind of walk through the application, so we've already applied together, so this isn't completely relevant, but for those who are watching it back, the biggest thing to be keeping in mind is that the deadline is June 6th in terms of applying and having that fee waived. We're likely going to be giving a little bit of wiggle room, just recognizing some of the technical difficulties that we had today, so that you do have the opportunity to connect with the Indigenous recruitment team around some of your questions with ISAP or the faculty bridging programs. But as long as there was the intent to be supported through the IR team or the ISAP team today, we will make sure to honor that as long as it's roughly within that week's application. It's good to be keeping in mind that as we move forward on the application selection for the payment, if you haven't already made a previous application to another faculty or through open studies before in the last 3 terms, you will want to be clicking the paying an alternative way as listed on the UCalgary website. So if there's any questions about the payment page, or if you do end up paying it, we will always process a refund as well. In terms of the application, I would say email the ISAP team and myself so that we have a good track of all of our students who need that support and that ISAP waiver. This would be the contact that everyone would use in order to grab our information for today. So isap@ucalgary.ca and then indigenous.recruiter@ucalgary.ca as well. You're more than welcome to connect with us over the phone if that's what works best for you. And we will hopefully be hearing from you guys soon. And then we'll just leave this time open for questions. I'll pause the recording. So if there are any questions, you can not have them all heard.